Hey everybody, it's Allison here. I'm just up in my studio today because it's still pretty chilly out there. It's nice and sunny, but it is chilly. I'm starting some seeds today. I'm going to start some brassicas, and I want to talk to you about some of my tips if you're beginning a garden in 2022. So I'll just show you my mess really quick. I got some trays out. I was really fortunate. I found I needed more of these, and they just had them for sale at IFA, which is awesome, so I grabbed a bunch. And got some seed starting mix in here, and some of the things we're going to do is I've got kale. I'm going to start some microgreens. I got this seed packet at Dollar Tree last year, and I wish I had like 10 more of them. But these are just going to go in my window in the kitchen. I have cabbage. I'm going to start a few, both green and red. I'm not going to go crazy on that, but most importantly, I'm starting broccoli. I wanted 40 plants. I have 36 cells, so that's close enough. And got some spinach and a little bit of kale. So I'll do a couple plants of those. All right, let's get started. So I'm gonna just top these off a little bit more. Not quite full. And I could not find any of my plant tags, so let's see what I got. I don't want to go to the store and buy anything. I have these adorable little clothespins and a Sharpie, and I'm just going to mark them and attach them to the side. I think that'll work great. So I know that you want to get your garden going, but it's hard to know where to start, so I'm going to try and break down some of my tips to make it very easy and simple. And the first tip that I have is you always see people growing in raised beds, and I definitely recommend them, but if you can't afford it or don't have time to get all that stuff together, then don't even worry about it. So don't sweat it if you don't have raised beds. Go ahead and plant in the ground or in big pots or whatever it is you have available. So the materials are very expensive this year to be building things like that. And there's no reason that you can't just dig into the ground and get your garden going. It's more important that you get it going and maybe add to it later as your circumstances permit. All right, so my second tip is to focus on the soil. Soil is absolutely crucial for vegetables. They need a lot. So no matter where you're planting, whether it's a older bed or a new bed or into the ground or in a pot, compost is your friend. So definitely want to put 2 or 3 inches of compost that you can just buy at the store on top of where you're going to be growing. Look how cute these are. I love it. I hope they last. I mean, it's better if I had plastic, but I don't. So the third tip that I think is probably the most important, I want you to not do what I'm doing right now. I don't want you to start from seed. Starting from seed can be difficult. It's definitely cost effective, but if you are just trying to get your garden out there and get it going, I want you to go to a nursery, preferably. You'll find better quality and more plants more suited to your area. But if you don't have that, go to Walmart, go to a big box store, and get your plants and start with plants. It's just going to make it easier and more enjoyable for you. So my next point is to think about where you're going to be planting, and just keep in mind that vegetables love full sun. They can take like 10 hours of sun a day. Most veggies don't do as well in the shade. Only certain things like brassicas or lettuce are okay with shady conditions. So give your plants as much sunlight as possible. So placing is key. So you're going to get your good soil, you're going to get a nice sunny location, and then remember, veggies like nice consistent watering. I do have other videos about watering, but consistency is the key. When you water sporadically, you cause a lot of problems for the plant. All right, so my next tip is mulch. Save yourself a ton of trouble. I have a system that makes it so much easier to like have a garden when you're really, really busy. And that is to make sure that the soil is mulched. So you're going to plant your little plants in there. I lay down a layer either of cardboard or I have heavy duty weed fabric that I invested in the end, but scrap cardboard and newspaper are perfectly acceptable. And you're going to cover the soil up, and then you're going to put mulch on top. And that mulch can be, you could buy mulch, you could use grass clippings, which are awesome. I definitely recommend that, and that way you're not wasting any nutrients, nothing's leaving your yard. There's a variety of things that you use. You could buy straw, anything like that that's going to mulch the soil. So it's going to look like this. You already have your plant in the dirt line, little roots. You're going to lay down that layer of cardboard. So start saving those Amazon boxes. And on top of that, you're going to have a nice layer of mulch. And this is going to eliminate weeding, because nobody has time for weeding. And it's going to keep the soil moisture, and that way you'll have more even watering. So in my yard, I use soaker hoses. So my soaker hoses are touching the dirt and they're underneath the cardboard. But you can still water your plants with this system with a hose. It's totally fine. Last tip. This one might surprise you a little bit, but I want you to plant more than you think you're going to need. I want you to go ahead and do 2 rows in the garden. Do 2 raised beds. Plant more than you think, because there's always going to be a need for it. Even if you can't eat it, you can always share it. But you'll be really happy if you went to all the trouble of buying the compost and planting out the plants and keeping stuff watered. Do double. Just go ahead and do it. I made a little schematic of a raised bed. Mine are like 4x8, I think, anywhere around that size, 4x8, 4x6. But there's so much stuff that you can get into that small space, because as long as your soil is good and you're taking care of your garden, your plants will thrive. So here's my bed. This is a trellis. So this is right on the very edge of the bed, and you can buy a trellis or you can literally make trellis out of sticks. So it's completely worth the effort, because we are going to jam in a whole bunch of plants along here, and it's not going to take up any real estate down here. So here I have a row of green beans and 1 cucumber. That is a ton of food growing in that small space because it's allowed to go up. And then I put in 2 tomatoes. Maybe you could do 1 slicer and 1 cherry, and then you would have a lot. It's up to you, whatever you like. I would do, they're called determinate. They're bush tomatoes, so that it doesn't get enormous and it needs a trellis. You want the tomatoes that don't need a trellis. And then here I've got 3 peppers, sweet peppers, hot peppers, whatever it is that you like. But see how much room we have, and we've only done half the bed, right? So here's the whole other half of the bed. You could put a zucchini in, and notice I have it crammed all the way down here in the corner, because you want those big leaves to like spill out into the yard and not take up a bunch of room with the good soil, right? So kind of move it over here, and every once in a while you might want to clip a leaf or 2 off of here to keep it under control. But that leaves us a whole row. So this could easily be 5 or 6 feet worth of greens. You could do lettuce, any kind of like oriental greens, cabbage, whatever it is that you like. Well, maybe not cabbage, that's too big. But nice big row of spinach and lettuce. You could have a row of carrots, a row of beets. Maybe it could be onions if you don't like beets, or garlic, something like that. And then we still have room here for a few herbs, or maybe something small like an eggplant. But I know a lot of people love to run out and just, like a cilantro and parsley. They're not huge plants, so there's plenty of room for basil. You might even have a little more room here. If you don't like the beets, then you have a whole row that you could put in some awesome herbs. So that's quite a lot of things in one bed, and just imagine how awesome that would be. So I hope that makes sense. Ask me any questions in the comments below. I just encourage everybody to get out there and do it. You could have the whole thing up and running in a Saturday afternoon if you start with plants, instead of trying to start with seed and all that stuff. So anyway, I hope you guys get started on your garden. I'd love it if you subscribed. I have tons of garden tours and tips. We have chickens. We're doing a lot of new projects this year. It's gonna be really fun, and I really, really appreciate every one of you that clicks that subscribe button. And I hope you guys have an awesome garden year. Happy gardening.